If you've ever used one of the Switch Pro controllers, you know it's one of the best controllers out there, but it's also one of the most expensive. So I'm always trying to find controllers that are similar in quality, but a lot less expensive, and that's why we're going to be taking a look today at this PXN P50L controller, which is good for both PC and Switch. This thing is getting a lot of good reviews on Amazon, and it's under $20, so let's take a look at it. Hey everybody, it's Chris from Family Geekery, and today we're taking a look at this new controller here, this PXN P50L, and it is a wireless gaming controller for both Nintendo Switch and for PC. So let's take a look at this thing. So like I said, this thing is getting good reviews. It's under $20 right now on Amazon. They have 4 different colors. This one they call the brown color, and I picked this one because it's just different than all the other controllers I have, so it'll be easy to find real quick. So let's take a look at the back of the box here at some of the listed features. So we've got compatible with Switch and PC, supporting both wireless and wired. So I like that. I like when you can choose between wireless and wired, because sometimes if I'm sitting right next to my computer, then I'll just plug the cable right in. And sometimes if I'm sitting across the living room from the Switch, then I'll go ahead and use it wireless. So it says developed with advanced app for button programming. So I've heard notice of an app. I haven't downloaded it yet, but we'll figure that out. Supported 1 button to wake up Nintendo Switch. That's always nice. Built-in 6-axis gyroscope for precise motion control. So we're going to test that out probably with a Zelda game, because that's the one game I know that you can use the gyroscope in. Designed with turbo button to support linear turbo function. I don't often use the turbo function, but it's nice if you use it for something. It says with asymmetrical dual motor and adjustable vibration intensity. So maybe with the app you can change how intense the vibration is. And then built-in 550 milliamp hour lithium battery and intelligent power saving to make the controller last longer. So it seems like it's got a lot of the features that you'd need for it to be a good controller for the Switch. It looks like it's going to be comfortable, so let's go ahead and open this thing up and test it out. So here it is, and it's not a bad looking color. You know, I kind of like the brown because it's different than everything else I've got, so that's pretty cool. Now the first thing that I'm getting out of this is that it reminds me exactly of the Stadia controller. Now obviously the biggest difference is the location of the D-pad. D-pad on the Stadia controller is up here, but everything else, I mean, the flaring on the analog sticks, the overall shape, I mean, look at this thing. They're like twins. The button locations, the amount of buttons. Now there is a difference. The Stadia controller doesn't have any buttons on the back, and this one does, but very similar. The joysticks are very similar. There's a noticeable weight difference. This one's quite a bit lighter than this, and sometimes you just equate the heaviness of a controller to build quality, but I wouldn't be surprised if this came off the same assembly line. You know, someone called up the manufacturer and said, hey, we're not making Stadia controllers anymore, and they're like, okay, no problem, switch these 2 things around and start printing these things out. But yeah, it feels good. It's a good shape. I always like the Stadia controllers shape in the hands, so it fits well for me, and this one fits exactly the same. I like that this is swapped because this is more normal for, you know, Nintendo Switch type games anyways. But yeah, it's a good looking controller. It feels good. The buttons all seem okay. You know, the D-pad, some people like these D-pads with the cross. Some people like the ones that are more circular, but it's fine. The amount of D-pad that you'd use on a Nintendo Switch anyways is usually just for menu stuff, you know, selecting weapons and stuff, so that works pretty well for that. Let's see what the right buttons feel like. They feel decent. These top L1, R1 feel good. Now these here are definitely not analog controller, or not analog triggers, which isn't surprising because even the Pro controller doesn't have analog triggers, and the Switch doesn't really support analog triggers anyways. So not a big deal when you're using this with the PC, that would be nice to have analog functionality, but you know, I've got enough PC controllers already. It's just nice to have the dual functionality, but if I need to play something on PC, it's probably going to be on something like the Xbox controller anyways. But yeah, overall, I like the style, I like the feel, and I guess it's time to check out some of its other functions. So let's go ahead and download the app and take a quick peek at that. Alright, so I loaded up the app that it told me in the instruction book. It's called PXN Play, and I went into the Bluetooth settings of the phone and turned Bluetooth on. It found this. It was labeled Pro Controller. That's pretty cool. So I wish that they would actually name it like PXN P50L or something, so that I would know in my list of devices what that was instead of Pro Controller. But at least I know it's some kind of Nintendo controller. And it shows right in here that's connected. When I tapped it, it asked me if I wanted to pair, so I did. And once you get in here, it steps you through a little tutorial that I've skipped through. But basically, you got all your buttons on this page here, and you select any one of your buttons, and then it gives you a remapping guide over here, so you can remap any of the buttons to a different button. And then you have the ability of taking some of these buttons, like the A button here, and then changing the turbo function of it and increasing, I guess, how many times that it gets tapped per second or whatever. Also, in addition to remapping, we've got the ability to change like the dead zones of the analog controllers, and it gives you some presets for standard, fighting, and sports. I didn't mess with those. And then we've got the 2 vibration motors. We can change those independently. We can increase or decrease the amount of vibration as the thing starts vibrating on the desk over there. And then I guess this keep button is probably the save button. And I think you can save different, you know, custom DIY, they call them, configurations. So you can set this up for a particular game and then save it, and then set it up for a different game and then save it. Maybe you have a different setup for your fighting games than you do for your like Zelda type games. But yeah, a lot of configuration, especially something as simple as swapping that A and B button for certain games. Maybe if you're going to use this on your PC for some things, you may want to swap that A and B to be more traditional to the Xbox layout. So you could have an Xbox preset saved and then a Nintendo preset saved. So that's a nice feature to have on such a cheap joystick. I mean, you can't even do that for a $60 controller. And then the other thing that you can save in there that I didn't show you was the sleep timer. So I think by default this thing, if you have it turned on and it's playing a game and you don't touch it for 5 minutes, it'll put itself to sleep. But you can change that to either 5, 10, or 15 minutes, I think, or you can turn it off completely. Now, I don't suggest you do that. You would kill the battery every day, I think, if you didn't turn it off manually, because that is the power button right there. But yeah, maybe you want it to stay awake for 10 minutes instead of 5 to give you time to get to the kitchen and back while you're playing some Zelda. So I think the next thing we need to do is hook this up to a switch and test it out. Alright, so let's get this thing hooked up to a switch. So according to the instructions, it says to head over towards the controllers. And we're going to change grip order. And it says to put this in pairing mode by holding the power button for like 4 seconds. Everything should start flashing. And there it is. I got a little vibration on the controller. And it's set up there. So let's back out of this. And let's go into the game. Obviously it's working. So the one thing I did want to test out on this was the gyroscopic control. So let's pull out a bow here. Yeah, it feels pretty good. Feels just like the Pro controller. So that works fine. But yeah, the sticks are maybe a little bit stiffer than the sticks on the Pro controller, but this definitely works just fine. Now this is all in Bluetooth mode here. This cable here is just for power. So if we wanted to put it into wired mode, then it came with a USB-C to USB-A cable, I'm guessing for charging, but it says you could also use an on-the-go adapter into here and plug a cable right in there. It says that adapter is sold separate, but any kind of USB-C to USB-A female adapter, and they make the little tiny ones, plug it in there, plug in your USB cable, and you would be playing wired. And the same thing if you were using this going into the switch dock. The switch dock, of course, has USB-A connectors in it, so you just need a long enough cable to reach from here. So let's go ahead and take this thing and hook it up to a PC and see how it works. Alright, so I've got a gaming laptop here to test this out. So we're going to try it with Bluetooth first. So let's go to add Bluetooth and other devices. And it said in the instructions to hold down the home and the Y. So once this thing's turned on, hold down home and Y, and LED 2 should start blinking. And there's LED 2, it's blinking, and it's supposed to show up as a Xbox controller. There it is, Xbox wireless controller. So let's select that and let it pair. And there it goes. So let's go into the controller settings, and it sees it as a Bluetooth X input compatible input device. So let's go to properties, and here we can see the X and Y axis, all of our buttons, D-hat or the D-pad, and on the triggers, let's see what they show up as. And yeah, sure enough, so if you look at the Z axis here, that is definitely not analog, which, like I said before, is fine for Nintendo Switch, but kind of a bummer for the PC. But it just depends on what type of games you're playing and what you're playing on. So it looks like it's going to work just fine for most of your PC gaming. So let's try one more thing. Alright, so the next thing I wanted to try was iOS. Now, since it had me connect this to my phone originally to use that app that I downloaded, I figured, hey, if it connects to a phone, it must be able to be used as a controller too. So sure enough, here I am on an iPad mini, and I'm doing this over Bluetooth. I just did the regular Bluetooth settings, and it was a little weird setting it up. Now, of course, Bluetooth is a wonderful technology when it works, but when it doesn't, things do get weird. But I went through the same connection status, the home and Y, figuring that this was a Xbox compatible controller, and iOS likes Xbox compatible controllers, and it showed up once it was in the pairing mode. Once this light here started flashing, it showed up as a DualShock 4 controller first, momentarily, and then it said, hey, I found a PXN, P50L, and I was like, okay, so I tapped on that, and I'm not sure if I needed to tap on the PlayStation controller first, but that's the first one that popped up, and this didn't pop up until after I tapped that, so it's kind of weird, but it works. Now, one thing that you do want to notice is I'm hitting the A button here to drive, and I think normally you would hit the bottom button here, like the A button down on the bottom. So you may want to remap things if you're used to hitting the bottom button, but the A does match the A, so that does work. It kind of messes up all your controls as far as what you use to get in and out of vehicles and all that good stuff, but it works. And so this is a Switch controller that also works on PC, that also works on iOS. So you're getting three functions, all for less than 20 bucks. I think it's a heck of a deal. So I think that's going to wrap it up for this video. Just wanted to check out this little controller and see what it can do. And so far I'm pretty happy with it. It worked fine with Switch. It had the gyroscopic controls, had good feeling controls to it. It worked with PC, and it works with iOS. You get full ability to customize the controls, the turbo function, the vibration function, remapping the buttons, setting your dead zones, and it even had like an auto calibration thing in the app that I didn't show, where it has you lay it down on the desk and it recalibrates your sticks if you start to get any kind of drift. It also recalibrates the gyro controls also. So all of that for less than 20 bucks. You got 4 different colors to choose from. I think there's a blue, a white, and maybe a green or something. This is the brown one. I think it's a heck of a deal. So check this thing out at Amazon. I'll leave a link down in the description below. If you have any questions about it, go ahead and drop them down in the comments below, and I'll try to test it out for you. But other than that, thank you as always for watching, and until next time, peace out and geek out.